Welcome to Musta Tales. Close your eyes and leave the day behind. Before we begin our journey tonight, take a moment to find your most comfortable position. Adjust your pillow, pull up the covers, and let your shoulders drop. Take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Tonight, we follow the footsteps of a young soul in a world of shadows, in a story called The Boy Who Talked to Fear. Let your mind drift as we begin. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Amir. He wasn't different from the others, at least on the outside. He had the same toys, the same school, the same quiet dreams that all children have. But inside, Amir lived in a noisier world, a world made of what-ifs. What if something happens? What if someone is in the dark? What if I'm not strong enough? Amir was afraid, not just one fear, but many small fears hiding everywhere, in the hallway at night, under the bed, in the kind of silence that feels too silent. Even when everything was normal, he always felt something, a small knot in his stomach, a heartbeat faster than usual, a voice that whispered, "Be careful." Every night was the same, the light on, the door slightly open, his breath held as he closed his eyes, and then waiting for sleep to come before the fear grew too big. During the day, Amir pretended to be like everyone else. He laughed, he played, he talked, but he avoided anything that challenged him. He didn't climb trees, he didn't run too fast, he never went far from home, and most of all, he never went near the forest. The forest was there, behind the village, large, silent, still. The other children said there was nothing strange about it, that it was just a forest. But for Amir, it was different. It felt like it was watching, as if something between the trees didn't want to be seen, something that was waiting. One day, while the other children were playing near the edge of the forest, one of them said, "Let's go inside." Everyone laughed. Someone took a step forward. Amir didn't. He took a step back, then another, until no one was looking at him anymore. That evening, Amir went home in silence. He didn't say anything, but inside him, something had cracked. It wasn't just fear. It was shame. He sat on his bed, staring at the floor. "Why am I like this?" he whispered. He wasn't angry. He was tired. Tired of running. Tired of feeling small. That night, the light stayed on longer than usual, but when Amir finally lay down, something happened. The silence wasn't silent anymore. It felt alive, as if the room itself was slowly breathing. Amir opened his eyes. His heart began to race. Then he heard something, not a noise, a voice, low, calm, close. "How long are you going to keep running?" Amir sat up suddenly. He looked around. No one was there. "Who said that?" he whispered. A shadow in the corner of the room seemed to move. It wasn't big. It wasn't threatening, but it was present, as if it had always been there. The voice came again. "You've been avoiding me your whole life." Amir felt his breath catch. "Who are you?" he asked. A brief silence, then the answer, "I am what you run from." Amir's heart was beating so hard it felt like it filled the whole room. He wanted to run, to hide, to turn on every light, like he always had, but this time he didn't. He stayed still, with trembling hands, with open eyes, For the first time, he didn't run. The shadow moved a little closer. It didn't feel scary. It felt meaningful. "If I keep running," Amir said softly, "this will never end, right?" The voice answered immediately, "No." A long silence filled the room. Then Amir did something he had never done before. He asked a question, not to escape, not to avoid, but to understand. "If I don't run," he said, "what happens?" The shadow remained still. Then it answered, slowly, "Then you begin to see." Amir didn't fully understand, not yet, but he felt something shift, small, almost invisible. It wasn't courage, not yet. It was a choice. That night, Amir didn't turn off the light right away, but he didn't keep it on out of fear. He kept it on to stay awake, to listen, to understand. And for the first time in his life, fear was no longer just something to run from. It was something to face. That night, Amir didn't sleep the way he usually did, not because he was more afraid, but because, for the first time, he was thinking about his fear in a different way, not as something to avoid, but as something he wanted to understand. The next morning, the world looked the same. Sunlight came through the window. The sounds in the house were normal. Voices outside were the usual ones. And yet, inside Amir, something had changed. Small, quiet, but real. He stepped outside. He walked slowly, as always. But instead of looking down, every now and then he looked up, as if he were searching for something, or someone. He reached the other children. They were laughing, running, pushing each other toward the edge of the forest. One of them said again, "Come on, let's go inside just a little." Amir's heart started racing. That feeling came back immediately. The knot in his stomach, the short breath, the voice in his head. "Go away." Amir took half a step back, automatic, like always. Then he stopped. He remembered the night. He remembered the voice. "If I keep running, this will never end." He took a slow breath, not to become brave, just not to run right away. He did something simple. He didn't enter the forest, but he didn't walk away either. He stayed. For the others, it was nothing. For him, it was everything. His heart kept beating fast, his hands slightly sweaty, his mind saying 1,000 things. But he stayed. 1 minute, then 2, then 5, and something strange happened. The fear didn't grow. It didn't become bigger. It stayed there, steady. Amir frowned slightly. "Strange," he whispered. Inside him, like a distant echo, he heard that voice again. Calm. "See?" Amir didn't answer, but he understood. That day didn't change the world. Amir didn't suddenly become brave. He didn't enter the forest. He didn't do anything incredible. But he did something fundamental. He didn't run right away. In the days that followed, he began to experiment. Very small things. One evening, he turned off the light, but only for a few seconds. Then he turned it back on. Another evening, he left it off a little longer. His heart was racing, but nothing happened. One afternoon, he got closer to the forest. He didn't go in, but he reached out and touched a branch. Nothing, just wood, cold, real. Every time it was like this. The fear came, but it didn't destroy everything. It wasn't endless. And every time Amir stayed, something new happened. The fear changed shape. It was no longer a huge wave. It was like a voice, a presence. One evening, while sitting on his bed, Amir spoke, not out loud, but inside himself. "If you're really there," he said, "why do you make me feel like this?" Silence. Then, the answer. "Because you don't listen to me." Amir closed his eyes. He breathed slowly. And what am I supposed to listen to? The voice was even calmer. Not to run away, to be careful. Amir stayed still. Those words were different. His whole life he had thought, fear equals danger. But now he was beginning to understand. Fear equals signal, not an enemy. Not something to eliminate, but something to interpret. That night, Amir didn't feel small anymore. Not yet strong, but less lost. He had begun to understand a lesson many adults never learn. Fear is not there to stop you. It's there to make you look more carefully. Days passed, and then the moment came. Amir was standing in front of the forest again, but this time he was alone. The wind moved through the leaves. The silence felt deeper than usual. His heart started pounding, stronger than before. Now I'll run, he thought, but he didn't move. Now I'll run, he repeated, still frozen. Then he did something different from every other time. He didn't wait for the fear to go away. He took a step with the fear. He stepped into the forest. Just one step. But it was the biggest step of his life. Amir was inside, just one step beyond the edge, but it felt like a different world. The air was different, cooler, heavier. Every sound felt closer. The rustling of leaves, a branch snapping, the wind moving through the trees like a slow breath. Amir's heart was pounding, not like before, stronger, more real. "Leave," a voice whispered in his mind. "There's no need to go further." Amir swallowed. His legs wanted to turn back. It would be easy. One step, and everything would end. But something inside him didn't want it to end like that anymore. He closed his eyes for a moment, took a breath, then remembered, don't tell yourself to run. Tell yourself to be careful. He opened his eyes and took another step. The forest didn't react. Nothing terrible happened, just reality. He kept walking, slowly. Every step was a choice, not automatic, a choice. Then suddenly, he stopped. A sound, sharp, close. His body froze. His heart sped up again. This is it, he thought. Now something happens. He stayed still, eyes fixed ahead. A bush moved. Leaves trembled. Amir felt panic rising. That feeling he knew too well. The one that says, run. His legs were ready to escape. But in that moment, something was different. He didn't run right away. He did something he had never done before. He stayed inside the fear, fast breathing, cold hands, racing heart. But he stayed. Look. The voice inside him was calm. Amir didn't want to, but he did. He really looked. The bush moved again. Then something came out from behind it, a small animal, a rabbit. Amir stood still. His breathing slowed. That's it, he whispered. The rabbit looked at him for a moment, then ran off, silent between the trees. And in that moment, something broke, but not like before. An illusion broke. Amir bent forward slightly, hands on his knees, breathing heavily, not from fear, from release. He had just seen something important. Not everything that feels dangerous is dangerous, and most of all, fear arrives before the truth. Amir slowly stood up, looked around. The forest was the same, but he wasn't. He took more steps, more steady now, not because the fear was gone, but because now he knew what to do with it. Every sound? He listened. He didn't run. Every movement? He observed. He didn't imagine the worst. And the more he walked, the more the forest changed. It was no longer a dark place. It was alive. He saw light filtering through the trees. He felt the wind like a gentle touch. He heard sounds that once felt like threats, but now were just nature. And then he reached a small clearing. Sunlight fell perfectly in the center. It was quiet. calm. Amir stopped, looked around, and for the first time he felt good, truly good. He sat down on the grass, closed his eyes, and the voice returned. "Do you understand now?" Amir nodded slowly. "I don't have to eliminate you," he said inside himself. "I have to listen to you." The voice replied, "Exactly." A moment of silence. Then Amir asked, "And courage, what is it then?" The answer came immediately, clear. "It's staying, even when you could run." Amir opened his eyes, looked at the forest, then smiled just a little. All his life he had thought, brave people have no fear. Now he knew the truth. Brave people feel fear, but they don't let it decide. He stayed in the clearing a little longer, then stood up and walked back. But every step was different, lighter, stronger, because Amir was no longer the boy who ran from everything. He was the boy who had begun to understand. When Amir stepped out of the forest, the world looked the same. The houses stood where they always had. Children's voices filled the air. Sunlight rested gently on the streets. But inside, something had changed for good. He wasn't fearless. He hadn't become someone without fear. The fear was still there, but it was no longer in control. In the days that followed, no one noticed at first. Amir didn't go around telling his story. He didn't look for approval. He simply lived differently. When he heard a sudden noise, he paused. He breathed. He listened. He didn't run automatically anymore. When something felt difficult, he no longer said, "I can't." He said, "Let's see." One afternoon, the children were again near the edge of the forest. One of them said, "I'll never go in there. It's too scary." Amir looked at them. For a moment, he saw his old self. He could have said, "That's not true," or "It's easy." But he didn't, because he knew the truth. He walked a little closer and said only, "Fear isn't the problem." The others looked at him, confused. "Then what is?" one of them asked. Amir gave a small smile, not proud, just calm. "It's a voice, but you don't have to let it decide for you." No one answered right away, because it wasn't something to understand in a second. It was something to experience. Amir didn't add anything else. He didn't need to. He took a few steps toward the forest, then stopped, not out of fear, out of choice. He looked inside. He felt the wind. He listened to the sounds. The fear was there, always present. But now, it was different. It didn't shout. It didn't push. It whispered. And Amir knew how to listen. Over time, he began doing things he once avoided. Small at first, then bigger. Not because he became special, but because he understood something that changes everything. You don't have to wait until you're not afraid to begin. One day, a younger child came up to him. He looked nervous. "I'm scared of the dark," the child said. Amir sat beside him. He didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss it. "Me too," he said. The child looked surprised. "Really?" Amir nodded. "Then how did you stop?" Amir paused for a moment, then said, "I didn't." Silence. I started listening to it, without letting it guide my steps. The child stayed quiet. It wasn't a simple answer, but it was true. That evening, Amir went back home. He entered his room. The light was off. He paused at the door for a moment, not because he had to, but to remember who he had been, to remember how far he had come. Then he walked in. He lay down on his bed in the dark. His heart was calm, his breathing slow, and in the silence he felt that voice again, no longer something to fear, but something that stayed with him. "Are you still there?" he thought. The answer came, soft. Yes. Amir smiled, closed his eyes, and finally understood completely. Courage is not becoming someone without fear. It is becoming someone who can live with it. That night, he fell asleep without the light, not because the darkness had changed, but because he had. And from that day on, whenever fear knocked, Amir didn't run anymore. He opened the door, he listened, and then he chose his own path. Final reflection. Fear is not a mistake. It is not something to remove, nor a sign that you are weak. Fear is attention. It is a part of you that awakens when you step into the unknown. The problem is not feeling it, but letting it take control. Because when fear is the one deciding, your life slowly becomes smaller. You avoid, you delay, you step back until you live only where you feel safe. But growth does not happen there. It happens exactly where you feel that tension, that doubt, that quiet, what if? You don't need to fight fear. You don't need to defeat it. You need to learn to stay, even when it is there, to listen to it without obeying it. Because courage is not a moment. It is a quiet choice, repeated every time you could run, but decide to stay. And maybe, in the end, the simplest truth is this: fear is not the end of the road. It is the beginning.